As you can see, I have the same shoes on I had last week.
It looks even more swollen now.
Probably is more swollen.
Yeah.
They said it could
Sometimes
take 2 months
yeah.
before the swelling goes down. I just wanted to stop hurting. I don't care if it's swollen. Of course, it would be nice to get my boot on. I can barely get this slipper on.
No, and we should answer the question of why don't you just have 2 slippers on?
Well, the reason is because my right foot doesn't work real well, and this acts like a little cast. Keeps my foot working because I can't move my foot real well, and I can't move my big toe on the right side. So this is my little leather cast. If I didn't have that on, I wouldn't be able to walk at all. As it is now, I got my good leg is my bad leg too, so
yeah,
can't do much.
All right.
My ballerina days are over.
Episode 2. 2 cameras.
We wanted to talk about what we thought about bikes, the mileage on motorcycles.
Yes.
Okay, so to begin with, when a motorcycle comes in, we don't know whether the mileage is right to begin with. We don't know if the speedometer
Yeah, because it's so easy to change the odometer.
Right. Now, what we can tell, we have had people come in and say, oh, I bought this bike, it's only got 20,000 miles on it. We go, look at all the paint beat off the front fork sliders. This is not, maybe 120,000 miles.
That's always something, it might annoy people that whenever I post a bike for sale, I don't bother listing the mileage. And people ask, but I always feel like, you know, after you ask how many miles on it, the next question should be, and what does that mean?
Right. I mean, we've had, we built a bike 10 or 12 years ago for the Iron Butt for a guy named Joe Rappaport. Joe's book's up there somewhere called Hopeless Class. Great read, by the way, if you Joe Rappaport, Hopeless Class. And the first one we did, he bought his R60 new in '76. He had 440,000 miles on it at the time. We built it for him. He finished the Iron Butt, but he didn't qualify. 2 years later, we made it into a 750. Had to get made him a special fairing. And he had 550,000 miles on it then, and he finished mid-pack. Fact is, he had us take the crank out the first time we did it. We measured everything, it was perfect. We just did rod bearings, top end, and time and chain and all that stuff. These bikes are infinitely repairable.
Yeah.
And so, you know, if you take care of them, if you, you know, say do your transmission at 50 or 60,000 miles when the bearings are bad, if you do your top end before the exhaust guys get so sloppy that it causes the seats to egg out. I mean, if you take care of the bike, mileage doesn't mean a whole lot. Obviously, I would rather see a bike that's 20 years old that's got 80,000 miles on it than a bike that's 20 years old that's got 10,000 miles on it, because
right.
the seals get hard and shrink.
Yeah.
You know, every seal has to be replaced. Steel parts inside the transmission don't have oil on them because the transmission oil is down at the bottom. The slider in there is steel, lots of steel parts. All the bearings are bad.
Yeah.
You got the same thing with the motor. You got some bearings in there, the crankshaft bearing, and you got stuff all over the bike that doesn't get oiled. So, you know, I'd rather see one that was relatively ridden regularly than one that's just set for a long, even if it's in a heated and air-conditioned space. So yeah. I don't think mileage has anything to do with it. Plus, you know, we have this 90 or 91 GS for sale, PD, that's got 115,000 miles on it. Well, it's a 30-year-old motorcycle, so divide it out. You know, it's 4,000 miles a year.
Which I would prefer a high mileage one that had the circlip done. And the
one you knew something about the history.
Then, yeah.
Sure, I don't doubt it. I don't. You know, a guy called me the other day about the bike, and I said it has 115. He goes, oh, it's an awful lot of miles. I said, come on, man.
Is
you
it?
know, you figure the BMW rider is the rider who puts the most miles on their bikes, and averages 5,000 miles a year. So a 20-year-old bike is 100,000 miles. So plenty of people put more than that, but plenty of people put less than that. You know, we say oil and filter valves every 3,000 miles. Some bikes you see once a year, and they don't even have 3,000 miles on them. You just renew all the fluids, bleed the brakes, and freshen the bike up, and out it goes for another 2,000 miles, you know, 100 miles, 200 miles a month or something like that. It's crazy.
It's all about what condition the bike
Well, yeah,
is.
do you have any service records on it? Have you been working on the bike? What do you know about it?
Yeah.
You know, you say, hey, this guy's got 5 bikes, he's real anal. You see her every 3,000 miles, and these bikes have have the battery charger on them. I mean, last week Kathy Hargrove called me. Kathy and Joe Hargrove have an 85 R100 RT. They bought new in 85. Got about 600,000 miles on it. And she called me because every 7 years it's time for new battery. She says they take care of their stuff. So every 7 years, she says, well, 7 years is up and we're ready for a new battery. So what should we get? So these are people who maintain their stuff really well. And so if you bought their bike, even if it looked a little tatty, I mean, they're so anal about their stuff that, you know, these are the people you want to buy motorcycles from, no matter what the mileage is on them. I mean, my bikes have three. I got one with 285. I got one with over 300,000. I don't have any issues driving them anywhere.
You know what I'm excited about is we're putting the Seaman Rock big bore kit on the R65.
Right. Well, and the only reason it's going to work is because we're going to a taller rear drive, which so far I haven't been able to find.
But we're going to get more power with a short stroke motor.
Well, we don't.
I just want to see how.
You know, we're going from 650 to 800. In the past, when I've been asked to do it, it never made much sense because it's geared so short. It's a short gear motor. It's a short stroke motor, so it revs so quickly that all the extra horsepower did was get you to that point where you can't go any faster, RPM wise, quicker. Now, at least in this situation, we're putting more horsepower in, but we're making a taller rear drive so we can take advantage of that. We can pull a taller rear gear, we can go faster, we can help him out with gas mileage, we can make his transmission a little bit more user friendly. We can also go inside and re-gear his transmission if he wants to do that. We could put different first and fifth gear in it and change it even more. But yeah, that's something that never made any sense to me on the R65 unless you did something with the firewheel drive ratio. Yeah, and that's what we're doing on this bike over here. But
do you think so it's going to have about the power of an R90/6. How much do you think the short stroke's going to affect?
Well, you know, the bike right now is a 650, and I'm guessing that it probably only has 50 horsepower. The R90 has 60 horsepower. So, you know, it may not be an appreciable difference. I don't know. Do you know what the kit says is supposed to be horsepower?
I'm basing it off their torque increase numbers, and they say that horsepower is going to be raised by 20%, I think.
20%. Okay, so well, if it's got 50, then it's just going to add another 10, so it's going to be back up there to 60, which is what I was saying. So,
which is a big jump.
Sure, absolutely. He'll feel every bit of it. But in terms of using it to run the twisties, it's a phenomenal bike. Especially, I think, if you add this extra 10 and put the horsepower, put the gear on the back. It'll be a bike that'll be a blast to ride through the twisties.
I love R65s. I think they're underrated.
Well, they're not a highway bike, so not a bad in-town bike. Certainly,
but a lot of the airheads aren't highway bikes anymore.
Well, I mean, take an R75 with 50 horsepower. It's got a 3210 rear drive. It'll cruise at 70 miles an hour all day long. I mean, you know, and it'll run for a long time that way. I think that 70 is a little bit of abuse. My R80, when I was at 800, I ran it at 65, and I've got the taller rear drive in it, and I've got the taller gear in the transmission. Now that it's 1,000, I still only run it at 65. I can wick it up to 85 or 90 if I need to for a short period of time, but I feel like I'm abusing it once I get past that point. I'm at 4,000 RPM at 70 miles an hour, give or take, with everything changed, and that's perfect for me. Get reasonable mileage. I've still got plenty of throttle, but I still don't run it over 65 or 70 miles an hour. On and on and on the road, you know, for a long period of time. So, you know, all these bikes, none of these bikes have the horsepower or any of the stuff that the new ones do. So, you know, but I mean, people drove them all over the world for years and years and years.
Yeah.
You know, I think that they're capable of doing pretty much whatever you want. Your guy called yesterday from Montana, wanted some kind of GS, and he has an R90, and I said, why don't we just make your R90/6 into a GS? I said, no, I want to keep this stock. I want to get something else. But, I mean, very easily put a set of tires on it and change a few minor things on here, and it's just as capable. You're not running a single track, but it's just as capable running in the dirt as your GS is. Just doesn't quite look the part, maybe, but certainly does what you need it to do. I mean, people live on dirt roads and ride street tires all the time. They just learn how to drive it.
One time when I was first riding, I was on the dirt or gravel road. You know, I was just kind of getting the hang of it. And then this old guy just comes down the road on a moped and just starts talking to me. And I'm like, man, I thought I was doing something out here on this dirt, and this guy's just on the tiny street tire moped. Is a, yeah.
Well, you know that I rode several years ago with Jim Hyde, who does Rawhide Adventure Camp out in Castaic, California, and he said, "Why don't you come on? We're going to map out the Trans-America Trail. First time big bikes will be on it." I couldn't make it, but I talked to him afterwards, and I said, "How'd it go?" He said it was great. He said, "A really funny thing happened." He said, "We were driving, and we'd been out several days, and we didn't see anybody on big bikes, and we thought we were hot shit. Here we are on big bikes driving the Trans-America Trail." He said, "We come over a hill. Here's two guys on unicycles with knobby tires and calves about this big with like 80 pounds on their bike, just going down the road. Hey man, how you doing?" Had their earphones on, and we just took one look at them and just went, okay, we thought we were badass until we saw guys on unicycles driving them on the Trans-American Trail. He said, it put us in our place really quickly.
Yeah.
So, every time you think you're doing something special, somebody else inadvertently with no intent and purpose puts you back in your place. Well, so much for that. I see you didn't get any questions from people this week.
No, I should at least do a little bit more preparation.
Well,
I was just working real hard today, which
at least once a week you need to do that. Ask for more questions.
Yeah. Or maybe come up with questions and pretend that I asked for them.
John Jones in Arkansas says,
I'll have Garrett ask questions and then I'll pretend that...
only if you Photoshop them sticking out from the side of the door.
I'll have to...
That was pretty funny.
It was.
It worked perfect. I mean, it fit right in with everything else that was going on there. So.
Nobody noticed.
Right.
Or maybe not noticed, but nobody said anything.
That if you look Photoshopped?
I just Photoshopped him leaning into the door.
Right. Well, the whole idea there was to see everybody who's in the shop.
Yeah.
You saw everybody who's in the shop. So from that standpoint, it worked. So, I got my phone now. I'm going to leave my phone over there.
All right. Cool. Thank you.
All right. Have a good weekend.